to the bold analysis. Alfred Mutua, who is the chairperson of the Victims Compensation Committee, is reading a different script with Faith Odhiambo, the LSK president who was appointed as the vice chair of the committee. And today, on the 4th of December, or 4th of this September, during the swearing-in ceremony, the two who are leading that panel are reading their difference played out sharply. And in this podcast, I will actually explain why the plan by President Ruto to use the Victims Compensation panel for political expediency amidst the youth revolt in the country is going to fail flat. There is no doubt in my mind that if that is the plan, as is coming out now, that is not going to see the light of the day. Kindly subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for supporting this channel. Subscription is absolutely free. In this podcast, we bring to you exclusive political analysis so that you know what's happening in this country and beyond the headline, beyond the political statements, beyond the stories, you will understand what is happening behind the scene, and we give it a different perspective. And also, I also want to encourage you to visit our sister channel, the Bold Foundation channel. We opened a new channel. That channel, we are covering human interest stories and also inspiring stories. And if you want to know more about me, I was the guest there. So you can go and check out our interview with Kawira, the Costa Kawira there. And thank you very much for supporting. I listened to the statement from LSK President Faith Odhiambo. And she says something about the victims of protests, profiling the victims, amplifying the silent voices, the injuries, the bruises of those who are affected by those protests.
Exercise my service will be solely to the people of Kenya. There is no Kenya that belongs exclusively to politicians or their children. Neither does it belong to broad-based government, nor a country of cousins. We only have one nation that we must protect, the Republic of Kenya. We must rise to the occasion as a people, do whatever it takes to reinvent Kenya's victim reparations framework into a model that prioritizes the needs, rights, and interests of victims. Such a process does not belong to the members of this panel. It belongs to the victims and the common mwananchi. Our duty is merely to steer it, facilitate it, and formalize it, to ensure that the process is fully transparent and ensures both accountability and reparations. My focus shall be on the following deliverable milestones: to memorialize victims and publication of their identities in honors of their memories and contributions, identification of unreported victims and verification of reported cases, recommendations to facilitate and expedite criminal prosecution of perpetrators and civil litigation by and on behalf of victims, proposals and recommendations on necessary and urgent legislative and policy reforms to regularize victim reparation processes. It's my solemn patriotic duty to ensure that my contributions to this panel shall acknowledge the voices of those who have suffered while protecting victims and their dependents from being silenced, to the perpetrators of such heinous crimes, and to your masters. In Genesis 9, chapter 9, verse 6, whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed, for God made man in his own image. My loyalty is to you, the people of Kenya, and my learned friends who I serve at the Law Society of Kenya. I intend to guard this duty jealously and execute my mandate diligently. Should my efforts be frustrated or cannot be or undermined in any manner whatsoever, I am prepared to do the honorable thing in fidelity with the rule of law and the Constitution of Kenya. Inspired by the memories and plight of every victim, May we find guidance in the spirit of the Constitution and let justice be our shield and defender.
I need to admit that when I saw her appointment, some of us, I really raised objections, but I knew there was a political machination around it. We understand that it was in the interest of the president, it's in the interest of the president and Raila Odinga to bring on their side the leaders who are seen, of course, the vocal, influential leaders who are perceived to be anti the broad-based administration. And because faith comes from Raila's backyard, I know that was a big catchment for President Ruto. Odinga at this point will not want to face objections from home. It is also in his interest for faith to have been given the position. But is it coming at the betrayal of the people? Faith is making a very bold statement. I stand my loyalty to the people of Kenya, and we must pursue the cause straight. I am making a political observation on this. If she maintains this stand, then her presence, her tenure in that panel is going to be short-lived. Because from where William Ruto is looking at political expediency. Contrary, the chairperson, who is Makau Mutua, is telling the country about a constitutional and legislative framework to regulate protests.
Our focus today, however, is a narrow one. It is on protests and demonstrations and how we perform them in the context of our Constitution. And I want to say, and make this very clear, protests and demonstrations do not have to turn deadly or violent. They do not have to turn deadly or violent. For the purpose of demonstration and protest is for the people's voices to be heard. And the people's voices can be heard without violence or death. In many countries around the world, as you've all seen, citizens protest all the time, and they do so peacefully. And after the protest, they go home in one piece and safely. Our purpose here today is to turn the page and to start writing a new chapter so that we can establish the fact of peaceful protests and demonstrations as a Kenyan norm, so that we can perform Article 37 of our Constitution, which is one of the heartbeats of Kenya, on assembly, on demonstrations, on picketing, and on petition, which have at times turned deadly. We can turn that article into the lifeblood of our democracy. We know that the violence that has taken place has taken lives of civilians, of citizens, the majority of whom did nothing wrong but to turn out to express themselves. We also know that a number of our law enforcement people, without whom there is no country, have also suffered. And I want to make sure that people understand that the law enforcement people are also our fellow citizens. They're our children. They're our brothers. They're our fathers. And we equally feel for them, those who have been affected. Why are we undertaking this initiative? This initiative launches a national process to transform our political and our human rights culture around assembly and speech.
I agree. I agree with Mutua that protests must not be deadly. People should not be killed in protest. But I want you to make two comparisons. While Faith is talking about victims, Makau Mutua is talking about legislation against protest, prescribing or something to control on protest. And I'm so sure this is the continuation of the story by MPs. Remember, at the height of protest, first last year, it was CS Ruku who was saying he's taking anti-demo bill in parliament. This time round, it was Esther Passaris who was taking anti-demo. Now, I think because it faced objections, William Ruto is now making another move and is sneaking it through the panel to bring it forth so that it's a UDA thing. But Makau Mutua is speaking William Ruto's mind. This panel is a tool at the disposal of the state for them to use it to present legislation, legitimize a bill that should be presented in parliament, maybe to pass some bill around protests. And I want to make it this way. You know, you don't need magic bullet. You don't need a bill for the protests to be deadly. You don't need a bill to stop protests being deadly. That's number one. Number two, you don't need a bill to stop protests. And I want to answer that. Let me answer the first one. You don't need a bill to stop protests being deadly. People have been killed. We saw videos of young Kenyans shot in front of parliament. Police shooting. We saw videos in the streets of Nairobi. There is a family in Nakuru still looking for their lost son, months after the boy disappeared in the lake by the police, in the hands of police. Question: who has the bullet? Is there any protester that was arrested holding a bullet or a gun? Do you have any? No. In this country, who has the gun? It is the police. So you just need to handle it to that point. Well, first, you need to answer that question. Number two, if in 2020, we are in 2025, after J24 and J25, the state cannot learn its lessons and put the house in order, and a leader is still thinking, sitting somewhere, procrastinating, that you can sit in a corner, come up with a word in sort of a legislation, take it to parliament, then send it to State House, and parade people to assent to the bill into a law, and that through that law, you can stop protest. I'm telling you, that is a lost cause. Why am I saying? Protests are not prayer rallies. You know, they're not prayer ceremonies. Protests are not like they're things that people just organized, we are just going to protest. The Article 37 is actually an organic, it's an organic, it's an organic right, because it's one way the public is venting their frustration. When they're uncomfortable, it is the only tool available for them. And in fact, I want to say it. I want to imagine if people cannot protest, and they cannot show you that they don't like it, there's no protest. Will you even know what they're thinking? Will you even know? Now, this is the point. What brings protests is people's discomfort, while the populace feel the leadership is not listening to them. Or not even listening. Of course, is listening, but is not responding. The interventions, the policies, the budget estimates, all the programs that are being implemented are not responding to the needs of the people. You may want to create intermediaries here and say, opposition it's called an intermediary excuse. Opposition is inciting the people, the media is inciting us about the people, the parents are inciting their children. You can make all, and we've seen all those manner of excuses. Parents, you need to teach your children. The media, you guys are bashing state. This, it's bloggers, it's that. You can create all that. But then the principal thing is this. Mwananchi is uncomfortable and feels that you're not responding to his needs. A good example is this. We go to 2027 general election, and election is rigged. And people feel we've not elected the person that has been announced. Even if you have a law prohibiting protest, do you think you'll stop those protests? And maybe, sadly enough, and that's why I'm saying, those who are sitting in the victims' compensation panel, they must be very careful so that they're not used as proxies to legitimize injustice, to make it look normal for what happened in this country. I like the statement from the LSK president. He's talking about justice. We are of the opinion that there is no justice, even if you give people money. But the person who killed, there is a police officer who killed Boniface Karaoke in the streets, the hawker, in the streets of Nairobi, plain, on full glare of camera. If that person tomorrow is seen walking around here, even if you give the parents millions, will you have solved anything? Now, this is why I think faith must be very careful on this move, on this victims' compensation panel. These are my 3 takeaways from this. You see, this committee, their political interest vested in it. And what is most likely going to happen, this committee is targeting, is going to be used to pacify the masses by doing what is called cross-section politics. This is what a cross-section politics is. Let me explain using a cuboid. If you cut, let me use like this phone. Ukikata huku ya simu, you still remain with the shape of this. Like if you chop top of a cuboid, you still remain with what looks like a cuboid. So cross-sectional politics is this. And this is what the kind of politics that Ruto does. He will parade some people with millions, some few families, from there, 3 from there, 4 from there, from there. Probably even in Nyanza, go and get even 100 families and give each one of them 1 million, maybe 500,000 something. Then go on top of can say, we have paid all the victims of protests. Wale ambao waliwawa. We paid all. Let me tell you, that's it. So that a feeling should come that, for the first time, Ruto has paid victims, hata wale waliwawa kina Uhuru na hao wengine. So you must be very careful. And then dust to settle. People to now embrace. We need to give 2 terms. Immediately we get to 2027 elections, we'll be back to a J24 if things don't go the state way. So what am I saying? If we ideally must fix this country, it is good to compensate victims. But what is being, I do understand the nexus between the compensation and the legislation. I don't know. I don't see that nexus. And in fact, now that they're in the panel, remember, Faith was one of the strongest voices. The LSK president was a very strong voice against the atrocities. I've seen some members of civil society there. If they go down, if they're subdued and submit to the manners of that table, and then it comes a time when the state the dark state unleashes its wrath on the people, will face a very bad backlash. And the third reason why they must also tread very careful is this. This is a money-making venture. I'm telling you, there's quite a lot of money that will be put there. And it might be riddled with a lot of conspiracies here and there to dent the reputation. And before they know, you are a member of that channel, whether you've got the money or no, your reputation will be soiled. You will not come back to the people and talk to the people. So the trap is huge. And it's upon those who are there to read the mood in the house. Thank you.